Okay, so this is going to be a bit of a ramble, and I'm not really going to put too much thought into editing it, so you're not going to see my avatar in this video, and there's going to be a lot of stuttering and stuff, because I'm mostly just reading off of a Twitter thread. I guess tweet thread would have been okay to say. I'm mostly just reading off of a Twitter thread that I made not too long ago, and I have a point at the end that I'm going to ramblingly, that's not a word, that I'm just going to kind of ramble through and try to make sense about. So basically what we're going to do here is we're going to find out why Kairi Yaju loves Tarble so much and why so many other people seem to love characters like Tarble. And this, yes, I might mention Hetalia here and there because it's the same concept. We'll get there when we get there. It's deceptively simple, really. There's something fascinating to me about his being Tarble, very vague backstory, which we do have backstory for him, by the way. It's also pretty simple, though. That's probably because the aforementioned vagueness of it all. See, he was seen as such an embarrassment to his father, the king, that he was sent away to a distant star. Not a planet, a star. A star being, as I'm sure I don't need to remind anyone, a fiery ball of gas and death. Of course, planets look like stars too, so perhaps it wasn't one. But the idea that King Vegeta sent his younger son away to a star, intending for it to be a star as evidenced by Vegeta calling it that, tells me that Daddy-O wanted death for this pretty cinnamon-rolled child who was no good at fighting. Oh yeah, that's all the explanation we get. He's no good at fighting. Now, here's where things get Hetalia fandom-like, as I use a combination of headcanon, admittedly mostly headcanon, and analysis to piece together things missing, well, pieces. Tarble still has his tail. Why? Well, I believe that Saiyans are born with the instinctual ability to control whether or not they turn Ozaru. Why do I feel like I'm saying that wrong? An ability that Goku more than likely lost when he hit his head. That's headcanon 1, that's more on the analysis side. I believe that headcanons are on a spectrum, with one side based on in-story analysis and the other being totally made up. See also the 5 types of headcanons Tumblr post. Anyways, that could easily explain why Tarble still has his tail. Now, what does that have to do with his backstory / why I like him? Well, truth is, I have another idea. See, just being incredibly weak or straight up having the inability to fight are two different things to me. Now, Vegeta could have been referencing that Tarble wasn't any good at fighting, or maybe, just maybe, Tarble literally lacks the instinct to fight that literally every other Saiyan has. What if he's even below Gene status? What if Tarble is a born pacifist? Okay, so that's extreme, but I like working in extremes when making character backstories. And yes, at this point, if you couldn't tell, I'm openly admitting to making 90% of this up, if not a higher percentage. Granted, I'll stand by that it is at least 3% based on analyzing the context of the source material, that being the 2008 special, Yo Son Goku and His Friends Return. But stick with me on this, because I think it's really cool. Now, this next part ain't even headcanon, it's just a made-up unnecessary detail that I like partially, and most likely because I'm a furry. I've created a design that's sort of a half Ozaru, again I pray that I'm saying that correctly, half humanoid thing. It's basically how King Vegeta was able to tell that Tarble wasn't a quote-unquote real Saiyan. Because at the full moon, not only did he lack the instinct to not transform, but when he did, it was this weird, not fully transformed looking thing. So, King Vegeta, a little enraged and a lot ashamed that this was his spawn after having Vegeta, straight up jumped to murdering our little space monkey. Only it didn't work, because that star he sent Tarble to was actually a planet. The planet Tech Tech, of which Gure is a native resident. And the story grows from there, and that's why I love Tarble so much. Now, just kind of sitting on this for a couple minutes and just discussing it for a few minutes as I kind of ramble through this. Why did I say earlier that this is kind of like Hetalia, and why did I say I would bring Hetalia up in this conversation? Well, because Tarble has this same soaked cardboard idea that Hetalia has, and I'm sticking to that phrase because I came up with that phrase back in like high school or something. Maybe college, maybe early college I came up with it. But what it means is that they're not complete flat cardboard. They're malleable enough to play with and do what you want with them, but they still have a character to them. They still have something there. Tarble has a personality, and he has a backstory. Again, the backstory that we have for him is not near as, fulfilled, I guess is the wording, as what I gave him. But it's still there. We still know he was sent to a star because he couldn't fight. And Lord help me if I'm either remembering that phrasing wrong about it being a star, or it was a mistranslation from what I've seen. I don't know, but I really hope that that's the actual quote, because I'm basing so much of my little headcanon-y backstory on the fact that Vegeta's dad sent him away to a star. Why I said Vegeta's dad instead of saying King Vegeta or Tarble's dad, I'll never know, but we're gonna move on from that. As much as I love characters who have fully developed backstories and characterizations and thoughts and feelings and ideas and relationships, it's always fun to get something that's just vague enough to where you have something to get you started and then you just kind of run with it. I have this with Sancho from Man of La Mancha. I haven't gotten to Sancho and Don Quixote yet, but Man of La Mancha is based on Don Quixote, so we're gonna work with that. Sancho and Man of La Mancha, you know, he has a whole song about how he just kind of likes, what's his real name? Alonso Quijana, which is the real name of the guy who plays around as Don Quixote. Rocker Eye will know what I mean if he even watches my stuff anymore. But anyways, Sancho has an entire song in Man of La Mancha about like, oh, I just kind of like him, that's why I follow him around. But there's no real sign of him having a super deep connection to him outside of this moment of this in the finale when Don Quixote dies, that Sancho just kind of yells out "Master," because he is like his page or whatever it's called. Squire, that's the word. Squire, he's a squire. And based on that, I'm working on making a comic based around the idea that Sancho had a huge, deep, and not romantic, but platonic, loving relationship with Alonso Quijana as Don Quixote, and that's why he came back for him. That's why he came back and tried to get him to like wake up as Don Quixote. That's why he was excited for the adventures they were gonna have, all that good stuff. But I'm making most of that up, and because basing something like that, the evidence of the way he said "master," it is analysis to a degree, but like I said, all headcanons are kind of on this analysis spectrum. So, what does this have to do with Tarble again? Well, Tarble has that same feeling. I work best with giving examples and having examples. That's why I'm giving so many examples of something of the same kind of feeling I have with Tarble. I wanted to share all this because it just kind of feels important to me for people to understand that this is the appeal of things like Hetalia. The appeal of Tarble, so to speak, is what I probably should name this. A lot of people freak out. I've noticed, typically male fandom, the male side of the fandoms will kind of lose their minds and absolutely lose their heads at the idea of when somebody comes in and makes up a character based on a character that exists, so to speak. That's kind of a funny way to word it, but that's essentially what we're doing. Okay, so I just cut a lot of stuff out, but what I'm basically trying to get at, what we're going to try to remedy, what I just, destroyed, even what I kept, is that shipping has that similar idea that liking characters from Hetalia, liking characters like Tarble, who's our big main character that we're talking about in this video, he's our big main example of this. It's okay to like these things, and it's okay to admit that you like them because something in the source material in question sparked out to you. Something sparked in you. Something spoke out to you. I combined those two phrases and created sparked out to you, and that's weird. But at the end of the day, there's nothing wrong with this. There's nothing wrong with such things. And I don't want people to think that I'm trashing on Veggie Bowl because I think there's no chemistry there. There's obviously chemistry there between those characters. And even in the original manga, there's chemistry between those two characters. I'm not trying to say it doesn't exist as many times as I said that. That's not what I mean. what I mean, and I'm not trying to say characters like Tarble have no character and that's why I like him. I'm saying there's enough there to where I can infer so much for myself. I can create a story out of this, and that's what it is. It speaks out to the creative mind. If you're not a creative, you're not going to see anything in them. You're not going to see anything interesting in characters like that or in ships like that. But if you have a creative mind, you're going to notice that, hey, this is something I can work with. It's like when you're role playing and you start out with a character that's kind of okay, I say role playing. Let's get more specific because people are gonna hear role playing and run away. When you're playing D&D and you have your character, some people have a super creative, and these are all creative people. Some people have a super in-depth characterization right off the bat, ready to go. Whereas others, like myself, have a basic idea of what we're doing, and we just want to throw the characters in the story and see what happens. And that's how I work. I work slowly when I'm creating characters and worlds and backstories and characterization. When I'm creating all this stuff, I work very slowly and I work as I go. This is why I went and for my Haikyuu character, I joined an RP server for OCs for a little bit before leaving. That's my cat, I'm so sorry. Because I just needed to, I wanted to stay, but they weren't really interacting with my character, it was annoying. But anyways, I joined in the first place because I needed something to get me started before I started writing this character. Thanks, cat. So, because my cat's being a butt, I'm gonna end this off here with let people be creative with characters, and I guess the main point I wanted to make is that I shouldn't have to feel ashamed for my ideas for Tarble. I shouldn't have to feel ashamed that I took what was given and I ran with it and created something new. Especially because it's not the same thing as when people say, I saw on Tumblr one time, I saw someone make the comment, when you see a character and you put them in an AU, alternate universe, whatever world, and you change them to the point where they're unrecognizable from the original character, you don't like that character, you just like the face. And I've seen that. I've seen people do that with Tarble specifically, and it gets on my nerves. People will say, this is an alternate universe Tarble. I know it's against his original character, but he's my version. They just want Vegeta's brother as a character, and it's really kind of aggravating that that's what they want, and they don't just make an original character. But that's me rambling and venting and ranting about nothing. My point is, I took what was given to me and I created something new, and I shouldn't feel ashamed of